Hi everyone, this is Hal Weinshank. I'm going to be comparing my positive media psychology project on bullying and cyberbullying in comparison to the cancel bullying project that's listed on the website dosomething.org. The cancel bullying project, it looks like it's simply a campaign to post these small tear sheet like papers around schools. These tear sheets are usually an 8.5 by 11 size piece of paper that has little pieces of paper at the bottom that can be torn off. And these pieces of paper have positive affirmations on them to hopefully counter the negative messages seen and heard around the school, specifically around bullying, but just any negative messages. This organization is doing this based upon the theory is that it takes about 5 positive affirmations to cancel the impact of one negative message. And so the organizers would print and then post these tear sheets around the schools, possibly promote them by word of mouth or maybe social media, or maybe even printed in the local school paper. And that's in the hopes that people will read these positive affirmations and then create a more positive atmosphere to stop bullying before it starts. The incentive for others to print and then post these tear sheets is a chance to win up to a $7,000 scholarship or a $50 gift card. And that's just one chance. So that's your incentive to kind of get involved with this program. Overall, I feel that this method would have some effectiveness, but not really a huge impact, in my opinion, on bullying. And I assume from the research that I've done and the interviews I've conducted in my project that this would have a very minimal impact, and I'll explain why. Usually to stop bullying, it requires a much more hands-on approach and an interactive type of method. My friend that conducts regular anti-bullying lectures at a local school, he does a lecture and then he does a question and answer session. He does this for grades K through 12. And then also because he's a martial arts instructor, he offers simple, self-defense moves if the student has to take the bully prevention to that physical level. So also like the site pacer.org and stopbullying.gov, they both recommend a much more hands-on approach. Pacer describes how teachers and staff use simple puppets for doing role-playing with elementary school students to help them learn how to deal with bullies. And in quotes, role plays are an interactive method to creatively engage elementary school children to learn options for handling bullying situations. So my project, in comparison to this cancel bullying project, it will be much more of an informational resource for the students to use to prevent bullying and cyberbullying. And I'm also going to provide much more in-depth and resources that provides hands-on tools that the students, the parents, and the teachers can use. Also, I plan to discuss in my project the following topics. First, I'm going to identify bullying and cyberbullying, how they're different, how they're similar, so that there's a full understanding of what's bullying versus harassment versus maybe just hateful language, that sort of thing. Secondly, what problems bullying produces, such as problems concentrating in school, poor academic performance, and even behavioral issues, depression or suicide. Third, what makes bullies do what they do? In other words, why does a bully do what they do? Why do they exhibit that sort of behavior? And then what kind of kids get bullied? In other words, what problems do they maybe have at home? Sometimes the bullies themselves are also being bullied, which is oftentimes not thought about. Is there any abuse at home, maybe angry parents or a bad household environment? Next, when is it okay to fight back? In other words, when is it okay to take a physical preventive measure? And I'm going to describe that as being only as a last resort. My friend, who's the martial arts instructor that I previously mentioned, he offers self-defense moves as that last resort. The next item would be how to avoid bullying, in other words, non-physical defensive methods. Some of them that I'm going to discuss in my project would include ignoring the bully, walking away from the bully, agreeing with the bully, changing the subject and then being nice, refusing to physically fight, and then lastly, of course, go tell an adult. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention that I'm going to be putting in my project is I'm using 3 different psychological theories or techniques. I felt all 3 would be appropriate for this sort of a project. So I'm going to use positive psychology, I'm going to use Carl Rogers' unconditional positive regard, and then Buddhism, which has the traits of compassion and tolerance. To kind of explain these in a little more detail, positive psychology uses the principles of, okay, sorry about that technical issue. Positive psychology, it's an effective training for school counselors to intervene. It gives them engagement, relationships, meaning, purpose, and accomplishment. These are the traits that you try to provide to the students. I chose this theory because both the bullies and the bullied need to feel good about themselves, and this technique, it's more remedial than punitive. Unconditional positive regard by Carl Rogers. This emphasizes treating the person as a compassionate being that deserves dignity and respect, and that each individual has this innate urge to social positive behavior and to self-actualize. So by treating individuals with unconditional positive regard, it treats them with dignity and respect, and then this hopefully promotes even more positive social behavior. I think it's a very appropriate technique for bullying. And then lastly, I'm going to use Buddhism, because Buddhism at its core is basically talking about treating everyone with compassion and tolerance, even your enemy. And similar to positive psychology, Buddhism trains the student in the discipline of the mind, body, and heart. And so this is a really good antidote to bullying. And I could have used just one theory, but I felt that this triad would be much more effective. And then lastly, I plan to show some, de-stress techniques or anger management techniques, such as meditation and Tai Chi. I'm not going to have time in this project to do it, but I'm going to give links to YouTube videos that would show, how to utilize those techniques. Therefore, my project, compared to the Cancel Bullying Project, it provides much more information and resources to prevent bullying. And additionally, another problem that I kind of see with this Cancel Bullying resource is that it's a passive approach, meaning that it requires others to post these, tear sheets, and then it assumes anyone would even tear off a positive affirmation. So it requires that sort of intervention, as opposed to someone, giving a lecture or handing the sheets out or something to that effect. And then the second assumption is that these positive affirmations will stop bullying. I think they'll have a positive impact, but will they stop bullying? I don't know. That's just kind of an assumption. So I think anti-bullying, again, requires more of a proactive approach, and my project should hopefully do just that. I would ideally want my audience to come away from my training feeling empowered, informed, and then armed with tools to combat bullying, and basically understanding the processing and their feelings of being bullied and how to counteract that behavior and feelings and thoughts within themselves. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching.